Okay. So good morning or good evening for wherever you're joining from today. I know Sakshi is now back in India. So excited to have you in the same time zone. But I think I want to kind of start off with talking a little bit about, the fact that the BITSAA Sahaaya initiative has now turned 3 years. We started our journey talking about mental health for the BITSAA Alumni Association in 2020, actually, during COVID, well, when a lot of us realized the importance of mental health. The seed for it was, sown probably at the BGM that happened in 2020 in Goa campus earlier that year in January. But because of COVID, I think it got a lot more momentum, and it has been a great opportunity for me and the team to work especially with the BITSAA board members, the BITSAA founders, and a lot of the kind of leaders in the space who have been doing a lot to kind of help promote the cause. To introduce myself, I'm Divya Nawale, 2003 A4PS something, and I actually helped launch the Sahaaya initiative. I was the one who put a team together and brought it forward to BITSAA as an opportunity for people in the community to be able to talk about mental health openly, freely, and without any stigma. And as a part of that, I have an amazing team. We are around 10 people who are very active, and I think the cause is greatly championed by the BITSAA board members as well. So we're very grateful for all the support from all the leadership and even the campuses, because we're working closely with the campus on certain initiatives as well. I think at this point, we have done more than 20 webinars over the 3 years. And so we're very excited to have this one with Sakshi. This is specifically special for me because I've been working very closely with Sakshi on my own mental well-being and, approaching, just a holistic kind of approach towards like health and wellness in general. So it's very exciting to invite you, Sakshi. Maybe do you want me to give a quick introduction of you, or would you also like to share a little bit about your work and your journey as well? Maybe a little bit as a part of your presentation. But I think it's also helpful for audiences to know that, you were one of my very beloved close seniors on campus, whose room I used to go quite often in Meera Bhavan in Pilani campus, and also have been very grateful to be connected with you over the years, following each other's journeys and especially learning from each other a lot in the process, I think. And I think it's also very interesting to learn that, you created this whole space for people so that they could, really heal themselves or, resolve things that you also faced yourself. And I think that's very inspiring. So maybe I will let you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your journey rather than me introducing you like formally. So thank you for doing this, and I'm looking forward to learning from you today.
Well, thank you, Divya. First off, I must say that your work has inspired me all along. I mean, more than I can ever express. And also this Sahaaya thing is so good for not just for people who have graduated, but especially on campuses, so that you don't let things blow up. So thank you for doing what you are doing. Just an honor.
Thank you.
So yeah, coming to me, today's session is imposter syndrome. So I would kind of introduce myself keeping the topic in mind. I graduated from Pilani 2005, 2001 A3 PS 911. After that, I worked for a couple of years and then did my PhD from Stanford. And I usually used to shy away from saying all these things, thinking that this is boasting and all that. So I will make sure that I address all those things in the session today. So I did my PhD from Stanford in electrical engineering. After my PhD, I went to work for TI, then worked for Apple. And a couple, I think 4 or 5 years, then I had a child and then worked put in my best, like most of us would do. And then by the end of it, I was sleep deprived and faced lots of autoimmune disorders, mental health issues. Everything came together as it does. And so I took a step back and tried to understand what went wrong, and then took an engineering approach towards health. And after healing myself, I thought maybe if age is by your side, people can heal themselves, and started to help in this space. So that's where I'm coming from. But after this introduction, I wanted to introduce a little bit about the imposter syndrome and how I came across imposter syndrome before I introduced the webinar. So as I said, I did my PhD, and during I think within a few months of my PhD, I went to my professor because he gave me a desk which was earlier used by Professor Razavi. If you are an electrical engineer, you would know that Behzad Razavi is one of the celebrated authors, professors, etc. And he was my professor's ex-student. So I got to sit on the same bench or the same desk. Till then, I had no self-doubt, etc. business. I used to think I'm not great, but not give up. I'm like good, right? That's how I was. But I vividly remember going back to my professor and saying, I want to quit my PhD because I don't think I deserve to be here. And I said, how can I sit in this desk? I've studied this professor and this is not possible. I'm just, you don't know, I don't deserve to be here. I'm not that good enough. So what he said in response took me 10 years to finally understand. So he responded this way. He said, it's not your job to assess if you are good or not. If that's my job, you just do your work and get done with your research. And also he referred to me a lot of articles on imposter syndrome at that time. This is 2009. So it's been a long time. But it took me 10 long years to understand that what he said, which is usually the recommendation online also, is the goal. It's not necessarily the journey. So how you overcome imposter syndrome or address imposter syndrome is the topic of the webinar today. And now I work with many people on imposter syndrome, but I hope this little story gives you an insight that this feeling of I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve to be here, I don't belong here, these people think I'm smart and I'm not smart. All those things are imposter syndrome, but we'll discuss them deeper. I'll take Divya's permission to proceed with or sharing the screen. Divya, is it okay if I share my screen now?
Yes, of course. I wanted to take 1 minute to acknowledge your story. Thank you for sharing, because obviously it's not easy to accept that, I think most people who struggle with imposter syndrome also struggle to accept that they have to admit it, because then they're like, oh, then I'm giving away my, that's the biggest fear, that, somebody will, think I'm a fraud. So how do I even tell that I feel that like I'm a fraud, right? And I think my own personal journey through imposter syndrome has been very challenging as well. But also there's a story out there which says that somebody was at a dinner and Neil Armstrong himself said, oh, I'm just the first person to land on the moon. And, I don't think I did anything great. Neil Armstrong had imposter syndrome. We feel like we don't belong in certain places despite having gotten there, right? So I think, we are not alone. So thank you for sharing your journey. And I want to acknowledge that as a person who has also felt like imposter syndrome, I think it's something that we need to address. And I think it's a work in progress. It's never ending. So as we grow in our life, it unlocks new levels of how we can approach this. So yeah, please go ahead. Thank you for, sharing your screen and walking us through this.
Thank you so much, Divya. This thing of Neil Armstrong is actually a very powerful story. And yeah, we bring more examples like that. But so thankful to you for sharing this. I don't think I can share my screen. Yeah.
Oh, wait, let me make you also.
Oh, yeah, I can. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I can share my screen. I'm assuming you all see my slides.
Yes, we do.
Great. So I'll discuss what is imposter syndrome, why does it happen, how can it hurt, which is crucial. And last is how do we address it? But I want to reserve, if it's okay with all of you, reserve last 10 to 15 minutes to open it up for a little bit of activity for us to see if we can use at least one or two things that we learned in the workshop. So if that is a incentive, you might want to hear the webinar well. So first thing is, what is imposter syndrome? Thanks to Divya when she used the word fraud. To me, that is in nutshell, the feeling of, oh my God, they'll know that I'm a fraud, or I don't know anything. So a few things that can be categorized as imposter syndrome, it's a very loose term, is attributing past achievements as, oh my God, I got lucky, or it was just situational, or someone helped me out, I don't have it in myself. So things like that are usually categorized as imposter syndrome. When others can see that you are doing well, your background shows it, but you yourself are not able to accept it at that particular moment. The second one is excessive self-doubt. Now, self-doubt is not bad. If you have self-doubt, it can actually push you towards achieving something, which is great. And you might actually be more rigorous towards your work. But excessive self-doubt, when it impedes action. So if you don't proceed, that's what is called imposter syndrome. The last one is what already Divya said, feeling like a fraud. They will figure out that I don't know anything. That thing that is living within yourself and of course affecting your mental health is imposter syndrome. It's not a disease, so which is why I don't like the word syndrome, etc. And it's not permanent. The problem with imposter syndrome is that sometimes you might be really confident and like, oh, I don't have imposter syndrome. And sometimes you might be doubting yourself. So it's not a constant with respect to time. It can be really bad at times, but it can be really low at times. So it can come and go. And it's a pattern of thinking, right? Sometimes, and we'll discuss when and how it can be worse and not so bad. Now, the important thing is, why does imposter syndrome happen? In my journey towards uncovering imposter syndrome, I've attended multiple workshops, but I feel the one thing that I would have loved to address is not giving advice like, don't worry, you know everything, you have it in yourself. Those things don't help, because you might feel, oh my God, this person also is thinking I'm smart and I'm a fraud. So we're doing a methodical approach. The second one is, why does it happen? There could be minority traps. So suddenly, for example, you go work for people where everyone else is opposite gender, or maybe a different qualification, or maybe ethnicity, right? So if you are in a minority, you might not be able to relate to others, and that's when imposter syndrome can trigger. So having more people to talk to within your community, wherever you go to, can actually help a little bit. The second one is perfectionist trap, which I think most of us have, especially the kind of audience we are talking to today, where you think that I need to be perfect at everything. The problem with that is, if you miss a certain level that you are expecting out of yourself, it might be good enough for that job, but you know yourself that you're used to perfection, being a perfectionist, and that little gap bothers you. And you might blow it up in your head and be like, oh my God, they don't know that this is something that I don't know. But perhaps people don't care, and that's good enough. So the third one is transitions. This one I've seen in so many of my clients. So for example, changing country, changing jobs, changing a new parent, promotions, all those things can trigger imposter syndrome like a lot. Now, self-doubt in those transitions is normal, but if it can impede you or it can stop you from grabbing another opportunity, that's what we call imposter syndrome. But mind you that just a transition, when you are in transition, that's the time for you to compensate for imposter syndrome by the tools that we'll discuss. The third one is cultural, very important. Many cultures or families where we are, a little more respectful and trained to not, celebrate our achievements. or maybe being humble. This being humble can pushed too far can turn into imposter syndrome. So this is something that I'm now being aware with. So when my child says that, oh my God, I'm great at making Lego, I my instinct is like, you're not great, you're like good, you'll get, you just keep trying. But now I stop myself. If he thinks he's great, let me stop myself and not, pull him down. So this cultural thing now I've become mindful of, because you don't know whether 10 years from now or 15 years from now it becomes excessive self-doubt. So I wanted to give you a heads up on these things. But I'm a coach and not a therapist. For therapists, it's more of why these things are happening. For coach, we just touch and go. So I'm just touching and going from the why aspect of it. If you think you want to go deeper into whys, I would recommend you speak with a therapist. Okay. So the next one is, how can imposter syndrome hurt? This is something that if you faced imposter syndrome, one or two might be coming home to you. The first one is sabotaging your career, self-sabotaging careers. So I've done that. It's opportunity comes your way and you think I don't deserve it, and you just don't raise your hand or grab it, and then you're done, right? So it can happen if you are doubting yourself a lot. Second is not reaching your potential. It's not just about us. If I feel self-doubt and I stop myself, then as a bigger picture, I'm not contributing to the society as I could have, right? So that's the second important thing that I think is crucial. The third is missed opportunities serve as a role model to others. I remember before I quit work, there's this person who came up to me and said, my girlfriend wants to speak with you as to how you're managing work and kid, etc., etc. And she really looks up to you and wants to meet you next week. And within my mind, I'm like, oh, I am quitting before you want to meet me. So in my head, I'm quitting, and this girl is thinking that, I am her role model. And after I quit, I realized, how disappointed she would have also been, thinking that, oh my God, perhaps that's what happens with people. So if we manage imposter syndrome as a society, as a community, as a university, like the work that you're doing, Divya, if we can address it at college level and give them the tools, it's not hard, yeah, then perhaps the possibilities are endless of what we can do with, our talent. The next one is leading to stressful environment at work. I'm not sure if you have experienced it, but there are people who would sit at work for hours together, or just overcompensating because they doubt themselves. If you don't doubt yourself, you would set good boundaries and perhaps get a good work culture. One or two people who have excessive self-doubt or imposter syndrome can lead to a stressful environment throughout. So this is a problem which I feel should be taught in class and school, etc. So powerful. The next one is something that I see clients, and I wish we have more awareness, is being overwhelmed and under prioritizing wellness. So often people do have time, but because of excessive self-doubt and overcompensating, they just don't spare time for health and wellness, because it's more of, oh my God, my self-esteem is at stake. So I would just keep working and working. And if I say no, anyways, I don't know anything. Now they'll figure out that I don't know anything. So they do down prioritize their health. I did it. I have seen clients do it. And it's so important to address imposter syndrome so that you can be well. And as a health coach, I think for me, the last bucket is most important today. That if we can address imposter syndrome, we can address health. When I have my program, almost 2 or 3 months down the program, we start addressing imposter syndrome, because by then, I feel that if people don't address self-esteem, it's impossible for them to make time for exercise and nutrition and sleep, etc., consistently. One-off, it will be fine. But for consistency, it's important to address imposter syndrome, which is a subset of self-esteem. And self-esteem is the core of health and wellness. Now we are going to address imposter syndrome, and I'll probably prompt you for questions a little bit. So the first one is acknowledging. so this is the 4-part method that I've come up with. And the idea behind that was, when I used to, as I said, attend workshops on imposter syndrome, they would usually go to the 4th bucket, which is being objective. Don't worry about, judging yourself. Just be objective. Just be objective. Just keep doing your work. Don't judge yourself. See, you have achieved everything. But I realized that that's not possible. I know myself. I should not be judging myself. I know I should not be having imposter syndrome. But that's not it. It takes time. It takes a process. So I have this process, but I fine tune it with each and every client and learn and adapt. So if you have feedback, just let me know. For now, this is it. The first one is acknowledging. By acknowledging, I mean, let's normalize that it is okay to doubt ourselves. If I think that I'm the only one who's doubting myself and everyone else in the room is super confident and they just know what to do, etc., then it can make things worse. So what do we do? Normalize is, first, if you are in a work setting, then speak with your manager and ask your colleagues, do they also feel self-doubt? Or these kind of forums when you see people doubting themselves and sometimes being confident, sometimes being doubtful about themselves. Next time you face self-doubt, you say, oh, I'm not the only one. So that's an important one. The second one is understand the why. I would not go too deep into the why, but at least see when you faced imposter syndrome, what was it that triggered it? Was there a data to it, or was it just, yeah, Divya says it's just saying everyone is just winning. Yes, true that. Yeah, it's not just me. Yeah. So understand the why, but also list down things where you had achievements, right? And then you still doubted yourself. So before we proceed, I wanted to show you, a few people. Neil Armstrong is one of them, where Divya says, these are the quotes I took from Tom Hanks, Albert Einstein, Michelle Obama. Tom Hanks says, if I fake it, that means they might catch me at faking it. And if they catch me at faking it, well, then it's just doomsday. Albert Einstein, my work doesn't deserve as much attention as it has received. Michelle Obama, it doesn't go away. That feeling that you shouldn't take me that seriously. What do I know? I share that with you because we all have doubts in our abilities, about our power, and with what that power is. Michelle Obama. Now, Forbes had a study where they said almost 70% of the population faces imposter syndrome at some point in their life. Every time I present this, someone or the other comes back to me and says that it's not 70%, it's guaranteed 100%. People might not share, but sometimes or the other, they might feel it. Once you know this, then you're like, okay, I'm not the only one. So leave it in the chat box. If you've ever, you don't have to feel it all the time. If you've ever felt that you're not good enough and people will find out that you're not good enough, please leave it in the chat box, or you might say out loud if you want to. In the chat box, or you may say it out. Have you ever? Yeah, Shikar says yes. Yes. Maybe in the past sometime. Yeah. Not just me. Yeah. The second stage is baselining. By baselining, I mean, let's get the facts and not be in my mind thinking I'm not good enough. So let's put things on paper. So there are three, I call it CCC, call, celebrate, calibrate. Call it out, which means that suppose I give you a promotion today and I'm your boss, and then you go home and be like, oh, I should not celebrate it a lot, or I should not say it out loud because there are traditions where there's concept of nazar, or there's a concept of no, don't be humble, don't celebrate, etc., etc. So bring it to voice. I got a promotion today because I did these things. Bring it, say it out loud. When you say it out loud, don't worry about being arrogant. If you are facing imposter syndrome, you're far away from being arrogant. And once you overcome imposter syndrome, you might not be arrogant or self-doubting. You will just be compassionately detached. So when you are in the phase of overcoming imposter syndrome, it's okay, absolutely okay, to at least say it out to your friends or family or close people that, hey, I got a promotion. These are the things that I did. Or maybe I moved a city. It doesn't have to be academic or professional. I moved cities on my own, and these are the challenges I faced. This is how I overcame it. When you put things on words or paper, makes a huge difference. Your brain would trust that you can do it in the future also, and it's like an antidote for imposter syndrome. Okay. The second one is celebrate success. This is something that I had to train myself into after practicing overcoming imposter syndrome many times over. You might not have good days. Things might be really not going your way, and doubt might be huge. At that time, training yourself into imposter syndrome is hard. What do we do? When you have good days, when you have, say, maybe achieved something or overcome something or help someone, any good thing, come to your room and dance or move or maybe go for a run or maybe call a friend. Celebrate when things are going your way, so that there is a library in your brain which registers, hey, this guy is good, this girl is good, you are good. And it registers and pulls it out when you think times are not in your favor. So when you celebrate, there is in our traditions, there has been this thing of celebration. Somewhere down the line, we've been chasing our goals so much that we forget to celebrate. Celebrating has been an integral part of human evolution. For everything. That's why we are forced to celebrate festivals, celebrate. So celebration is such a huge thing which will save you when times are not so good. So please don't shy away from celebrating festivals or your achievements or helping someone. And if you think that you're going arrogant, that might be your fear, then check yourself. I mean, you are a best judge of yourself, no one else. The third one is calibrate your inner anchor. This is something that I just swear by. These are my strengths that I have. So if I list down my strengths, maybe on paper, and maybe create a small journal which celebrates you and your strengths. Now, next time you have self-doubt, before going to a therapist or a coach, take that journal out and read it out loud. You will see that you are good enough. That's hard facts. So if you want to train your brain, you need to train your brain. Your brain will not be trained in thin air. You need to do something for it. And to do something for it, when you are low, it's hard. When you are high, that's easy. So I'd request you that when times are good, invest in call, celebrate, calibrate. And that's the activity that I'm planning for you in like next 5 or 6 minutes, where we celebrate you. That's a tradition in my programs where we celebrate each one of us without any fear. It's a safe space. Okay. The third stage. So we have acknowledged that it's not just me. We have baselined myself. I am good enough. I don't need to compare myself with anyone. I'm good enough. The third is overcome. Now, this is a very crucial stage. And at some points, I think only I learned during the coaching process is how do you actually overcome it? This is phase 2, phase 3. The first part of phase 3 is workout and diet. Now, this is so important. Most of the times, I'm 40 now, and I was till 35, 36 years old, and I would think that if there is a problem, just keep thinking about it, talking to people, thinking. It would not resolve itself. Your body is trained to move and solve. So if you are in a problem, in this case, imposter syndrome, then you cannot evade exercising, going for walks, or eating well to solve that. Your thoughts are a part of your body and they are not living in some other library. So if they are part of your body needs to be by your side. So physiology needs to be with psychology to solve imposter syndrome. So if you're having self-doubts, go for a run, come back and reassess. There's a client of mine who says therapist's office needs to be on a mountain. So if we climb up the mountain to reach the therapist's office, then by the time we reach there, you don't need a therapist. So if you work out and sweat it out, then check yourself before and after a workout for self-doubts. If I have self-doubts, if I'm applying somewhere and if I have self-doubts, I just do a yoga session, and I think I'll apply immediately after the yoga session, because at that time your happy hormones are higher. So this is like a one small, very, very important nuance of addressing imposter syndrome. Yeah, Shikhar, yeah, this is actually funny. The second one is think, train your mind. This is phase 2. When we wrote down our achievements, train your mind. Yeah, this is like you are the one who is where you or anyone else is. Everybody has a lot of things in their everyday life which needs to be celebrated. So there is it's not possible that, oh my god, I don't have anything. Not possible. Think about it. You have tons of things. Have a script ready, and as I said, pull it out when in phase 3. Third is very, very important, and sometimes I wish I knew it earlier, and this is you learn the hard way. When you coach people and you hear people judging others, in my mind I'm like, okay, so maybe we need to address that. So this is very strange. If you train your mind to stop judging others, it will stop judging you. It's hard to face it, but it's true. A client of mine said that she was she is in East Coast, America, New York, and she said that she went to a class, and she would always feel that people are judging her for her accent, and she would be very, very conscious. And she said, I do not ask questions because I'm so conscious that my accent is not good. And then after this session, she went back and she said there was a student from Africa, and every time he opens his mouth, in her head, she is making fun of his accent without knowing, because at this age, we think we don't make fun of anybody, we don't demean anybody. But as soon as she observed it, she came back, gave me a call. She's like, oh my God, I was judging. I'm like, yeah, we all do. There's nothing wrong with you. We all do. So, but the day you stop judging, there's this quote by J. Krishnamurti. He says, observing without judgment is the highest form of human intelligence. So if you can stop judging people, very, very soon, imposter syndrome will go away in thin air. One of the things. This is just one of the things. There's plenty, right? One of the very important, necessary but not sufficient condition is stop judging others. You might not have felt it, but if you observe it, please send me a message. The next one is helping others. These are all lived experiences. Yeah. The more, like what Divya is doing, the more you help people for their mental health, you would see that you are healing yourself. So as I said, this is not a sufficient condition. This is one of the necessary conditions, that if you steer your thoughts into helping someone, you would see that, hey, my own, my focus on just me going down. So please don't take it in a way that, oh my God, I don't help others. There's nothing wrong with you. All of us are in the same boat. As I said, normalize. Everything is human. You might help someone at some point. You might not help someone at some point. That's absolutely okay. These are tools. And being kind with yourself is like, again, unnecessary but not sufficient. And so if you're not helping others, if you're judging others, that's human. It's okay. Please be aware. Indeed, helping others is the best way I've been able to help myself and feeling a little less lonely in my mental health journey. So true, Divya. So true. So true. Thank you. And thanks again for what you do here. The last one is objectivity. And this is something, this objectivity piece, I have attended many workshops on imposter syndrome, but now I can confidently say this is not the remedy, it's the last stage of imposter syndrome. By objectivity, I mean, when you're facing imposter syndrome, it's bring the bird's eye viewpoint on yourself. You are just a part of the puzzle, not the whole puzzle. So you just, that's what rule, right? Compassionate detachment. But as I said, this is easier said than done. For me, it takes all the first 3 stages to come here. Because if I'm not exercising well, if I'm eating junk, thoughts go down the drain. And then you're like, oh my God, I don't deserve anything. So to be powerful within, you need to be powerful from your body also. And this, I think, in popular literature, it's missing. So when you always say, hey, you should think this, you need to think this, I'm not well, I'm not sleeping well, all these things won't make sense to me. So let's be a little compassionate towards ourselves. and one piece by one piece, affirming ourselves. You are great. Is what it takes. The last one is bring the focus back to the task at hand. I'm neither great nor trash. It's just my job. Everything is just my job. And sometimes you might get a fear of not putting in hard work if you are detached, but that's not true. If you are compassionately detached, you might actually put in more effort than you would rather. So, in summary, it's important to remember first thing is you're not the only one who's facing excessive self doubt. The second one is that baseline. Let's bring things to paper. Hard facts. You got into bits. All of you at least got into bits. That's academic. All of you have done something for somebody. Right? So let's bring that to paper. The third one is let's get our physiology by our side, body by our side, little bit of exercising, little bit of self-doubt, little bit of exercising, little bit of self-doubt. That is how things work. And avoid judging others. Last one is think whatever I'm doing, I'm not neither smart nor give up. I'm just doing my job. I'll get there with compassionate detachment. Please remember, it's not a gender only thing. Mostly people say it's just women. Not true, not true, not true. Now I've coached more men than women, and I feel, oh my God, that's so not true. Women face imposter syndrome is the myth. Okay, so it's all genders, all ethnicities. With that, I have this, I'll end the presentation. I wanted to keep last 15 minutes for actually listening to your celebration. But I will take Divya's permission on how she wants to manage time,
Yeah.
and then ask. Divya, over to you.
That was amazing, Sakshi, the way you broke it down for us to say that, this is what somebody, goes through, and this is how they feel. And then these are how you actually approach it. And, these are the different kind of steps that you take towards finally saying that, objectively, no, I'm, I am worthy, and I am good enough for myself. And that's the reason why I need to celebrate myself. And I love that. If I can, maybe I would like to add something to this in personal experience. I've especially had maybe a few friends who have really helped me in identifying where I am not even acknowledging or celebrating myself, and actually them celebrating me. Like, for example, like I remember a friend of mine, we were just talking about like how I've moved to different countries. Like now I live in Germany, between Germany and India, but Germany is like my fifth country outside India to live in, right? And I've lived across US, Europe, and Southeast Asia. So, and she was saying that, for her, it seems near impossible to imagine that she would do that because she spent her entire life in Hyderabad. And she admires me so much for that. And I had no idea that, somebody would look at that and think, oh, it's something amazing, right? To me, it's so normal because I'm like, I'm doing it because I'm me, right? But I think having that outside perspective sometimes really helps. And then she was like, oh, you need to celebrate yourself for it, right? And yeah, and another instance where a friend really, helped me to love myself more unconditionally is when, I think, before even COVID, where all this Instagram lives and, TED Talks and everything took over, even before TED Talks in 2017, I shared stage with Al Gore, who's one of my biggest heroes. He's the reason I work in climate space. And I shared my shared space with him, and my whole journey on the stage, like having a conversation with him. And then I don't think I ever watched the recording. So 2 years later, my friend, she was like, oh, that was such an amazing thing. And for some reason, I blurted out saying, oh, I've not even watched it. It's been 2 years now almost. And she was like, how can you not watch it? So she sat down and she made me watch the whole thing. And then she was like, you have such an honest voice, and you're not acknowledging your own self. So I think in a way, it's very important for us to have these outside kind of acknowledgements, but also I think after a point of time, you realize, when you get enough of those, you realize, okay, I can do it to myself as well. And then that's the practice. That's what you need to kind of practice and come back to all the time. So I hope that helps people also. So if you are feeling in a space where you are not getting acknowledgement, I think you can talk to people and say, hey, what do you think about this, or something like that. And, surely people you love admire you and tell you things that you never thought were really achievement worthy or whatever. So and celebrate with people, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
the more the better.
Perhaps with a dance, perhaps with a dance or a walk or a run. So that it helps like
Exactly.
all on a
Exactly.
healthy meal.
Exactly. So yeah, just wanted to add that. So yeah,
Perfect.
I
Perfect.
think it's a good idea. Spend at least the next 10-15 minutes interacting. If somebody wants to ask Sakshi any questions, please feel free to either enter your question in the chat or come online on video, or just use your audio. In whatever format you feel comfortable, just come in and have a conversation with us. Plus also, I think it's important for us to kind of also see if somebody wants to share just their story, then we also provide a space for that. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, please feel free to share your, if you don't feel like saying it out loud, I would say that end this workshop. You can ask questions for sure here, but the small thing I would request is leave in the chat box, what is that one thing that you overcame? And that will inspire us all. If you can't think of it, I would request you to force yourself and share with us one thing that you have achieved. It doesn't have to be academic. It doesn't have to be professional. Bring it on, and we would all love to hear from you. Your story of strength, or you may ask questions.
Yeah,
How you took the
actually, I think that
decision?
is one question for you.
Yeah,
I guess you have also been answering this a few times now, but how did you take the decision of leaving your tech career to this? I too want to shift from tech to fitness consultant. So thank you, Nikat, for that question, and also the insight why you are actually asking the question. That's very interesting as well. Yeah,
yeah,
Sakshi, would you like to answer that?
yeah. Yeah, I think after healing myself, it was not a thought out decision. It was like a gradual next step. I started blogging first, and after that, when people reached out to me, and I felt that, oh my God, what I'm writing is helping them. But then I realized that I don't have the tools to help them, because I thought advising is helping, but advising is not helping, because I'm not an expert at you. I'm an expert at myself. So what do I do to help people? That's when I just enrolled for a coaching program. How do you become a coach? And then I realized, oh my God, it's a proper language to talk so that people can explore them within themselves. And then when I started helping people, I'm like, okay, there's a job to be done here. It's more than what I wanted to do. I still love tech, so I'm thinking of teaching in universities, etc., as a part time, but because of the love for tech. But yeah, it was a gradual next step, Nikat. If you have a huge fire in your belly to help, you can't just stop. I couldn't just stop it. Because I feel in tech field there is lots to be done with respect to mental health and behavioral health. People don't even know what behavioral health is, and raising awareness about it. It's just so it's, and I feel that an engineering approach to health has a huge potential. There's a huge potential. So yeah, it was a gradual next step or an urge to help, because I've seen people around me in the same similar boat, not the same boat, similar. Yeah. I hope it helps.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sakshi. And Nikat, I'm glad you got what you wanted. Okay. Shrikar says, Sakshi, your point on the influence of culture was very helpful in realizing the why for some of my patterns of thinking. Ooh. Can I say something here before I pass it on to you, Sakshi? Oh, I think this has been the biggest challenge in life. I think culture is the biggest reason in my personal life why I've experienced imposter syndrome. Not just because I was like, one of the very early, I think I was the most, brave or confident girl in my family, like, even in my extended family. And I was the first person to go abroad to study. And, I think a lot of times culture would, culturally, you're said that, oh, but why are you sending your daughter? Like, and then I would feel like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Like, and so I feel like maybe I'm not supposed to go and things like that. So that culture definitely played an influence. And then I think another second thing that made it, like huge dent in my self-esteem was comparison. Constantly being told that, this person is doing this, so you should be doing it, and not being able to choose my own path, right? Because, oh, there's too much urgency that, because they are doing it, I should be doing it too. So, and that's very cultural in that sense, right? So, I wanted to kind of echo Shrikar's thought that culture is really
Yeah,
something
so good.
challenging. Yeah. Yeah. Now on to
So
you.
good. Yeah, actually, I was speaking with this presentation I gave in Bay Area also.
Yeah.
And there also they said that the culture is in, like, culture led us to feeling imposter syndrome. I thought, oh my God, you are also feeling culture. I am also feeling culture. Which culture is it, right? All cultures. There was one girl who opened my eyes to it, and she said, my dad was an overachiever. Something she was telling, some rocket scientist or something. She said he told me that his peers had imposter syndrome. That's why he trained us into not feeling that way. So she said, I was the only one in my friend circle who has never faced imposter syndrome.
Wow.
So then I realized that it is, it, we all think that it's culture. But if everyone is thinking culture, then it's perhaps human. Then it's crossing the boundaries of culture. It could be specific family, specific scenarios that you can evade it. Otherwise, it's 100% true. Because human beings, by very nature, are told not to be too arrogant, because there are repercussions of that also. So maybe all traditions kind of try to push you into the mean and not be n sigma, so that don't become Steve Jobs. But we need Steve Jobs.
Yes.
So it's kind of, I think, normalizing. So it's all cultures. Now I've kind of understood that, yes, it's my culture. Everyone is thinking the same. Yeah. Okay. So if you have questions, please leave. But I would truly end. I don't like to end the workshop without you celebrating yourself. Even if one line of that, each one of you, one line of, I am proud of dash.
Yeah. Okay.
Or let me celebrate this about myself. If in maybe recent times, or maybe 2 years ago or something, celebrate one thing.
Celebrate one thing. Everybody, I think we have 9 participants, including me and Sakshi. We will also write what we are celebrating and what we are proud of. But Shrikar, I know you've come on camera, so I'm hoping that you have something more to share. So while people are typing in chat, please go ahead.
Just wanted to add one point, Sakshi and Divya, on this on the culture space. So I think Sakshi, like you said, it's definitely universal to some extent. Maybe one thing that stood out for me in my family was how there was a lot of emphasis on an authority figure, right? So, for example, if somebody is older or somebody is an uncle or somebody, then there's no way you can ask them questions or talk back to them. Again, a bit of a universal theme, right? So for me, even today, it's difficult to see myself at par with somebody that, even if they're a few years older or whatever it is, I'm suddenly thinking, how can I ask them anything, or who am I to even be able to speak to them? Right. So that I just wanted to share that piece. But thank you, Sakshi.
Thank you. I think, Shikhar, it's more of, as you said, all of us maybe latch on to something that our family or culture or something said. But perhaps we find out in the future that imposter syndrome is also some wiring of the brain, which everyone has, and comes and goes, and it's a normal thing. Yeah. So thank you for sharing. Very good point. Yay, everyone. Very, very nice. Thank you, everyone. I'm also leaving.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna call out people to also write what they're proud about. So Nikat, why don't you also tell us what are you proud about? Sharang, Ruchi, Rakesh, what are you proud about today or in the last 1 year, 2 years? What are you proud about in life in general? I mean, what are you celebrating about yourself? Anything could be the smallest achievement.
Thanks, Divya. Good one.
What else? What else?
You may say out loud, Divya. Is that okay? If anyone wants to speak out loud,
Yeah,
please feel
yeah,
free.
please unmute and speak out loud. Oh, Nikata's just shared, I'm proud of my thought process of doing something big instead of being something big. Oh, that's so lovely. Yeah, this makes me patient to pursue my dreams. Yes. I'm proud of being able to put myself in a new context, out of my comfort zone ever so often, be a completely different function. That is amazing, Shrikar. I think, yes, let's celebrate all of this.
Sharang, Divya, I think you missed Sharang. Sharang?
Yeah,
Oh.
that's my bad. Oh, Sharang is celebrating focusing on my mental health, keeping journals for 2 years now and grabbing opportunities even when I'm not at all confident. So proud of you.
Hey.
That's amazing. Oh, I struggle keeping a journal, by the way. I try, but I struggle. Yeah, but that's also you know, an acceptance of that, you know, I'm not perfect and it's okay to be imperfect.
Yes. I think, yeah, maybe Ruchi. I'm taking your permission to call you out, huh? Rakesh says, I'm proud of motivating persons to have positive attitude. Please go on if you want to. Yeah.
Okay. I'm proud of motivating persons to have positive attitude. Awesome, Rakesh. That's a great win. I think the best part is that when you motivate someone, you cannot help but, you know, be motivated as well, right? It's like saying that, you know, you cannot make another smile without smiling yourself.
That's so true. So true. We're still waiting on Ruchi. Divya.
I'm gonna bug Ruchi on WhatsApp as well and tell her.
And perhaps we can end with one thing that you are taking away from the session. I'm taking Neil Armstrong, Divya, with me.
Yeah, of course. I think I even Googled it quickly. Neil Gaiman met Neil Armstrong at a dinner. And so he's a famous author, Neil Meets Neil. And that's the story that, you know, Neil Armstrong said, you know, I did nothing. I just landed on, I was the first person to step on the moon. And so, yeah.
I'm taking that away from the session. If all of you can just say one thing that you're taking away from the session, that way all of us help. We don't have to review. We just have to remember what one thing you take away, so that all of us can review quickly. You can leave it in the chat box, or you can say it out loud. I don't have anything else to share. Divya, do you have any questions, or do you want to say anything? Up to you.
No, I'm very, very happy. We you know, this is one of those rare webinars where, you know, there's one level of comfort because, you know, of course, I know you personally very well, but also because, you know, you're a BITSAAian. And, you know, I think so from the very get-go, people were able to connect easily. And I think that's what makes the BITSAA initiative so, you know, amazing. Because we can resonate and connect with each other just like that, just because of the BITSAAian connection. And I'm very grateful for everybody who joined today, who shared their heart with us. You know, I think that's very you know, difficult, and I applaud them for doing that. But of course, I applaud you more than anything for able to provide us this platform and, you know, through this conversation, facilitate that process. Yeah, I think Shrikar just shared also that 70% of us go through imposter syndrome, helps me realize how normal this is and the fact that everyone goes through. I think it's not just imposter syndrome. I want to highlight that, you know, everybody goes through some mental well-being challenges, and it may not be as extreme as anxiety or depression, because it's said that only less than 10% people actually are, you know, diagnosed with clinical depression or anxiety or PTSD symptoms, etc., etc. but I think it's very underreported. People are not acknowledging it. I think it's time to understand that, you know, we all struggle in different ways. Maybe not in the form of imposter syndrome, but something else with our self-esteem. And, you know, every little thing like this, you know, attending a webinar, reading a blog like Sakshi, I know your blog and, you know, everything over the years has helped me a lot, even when I'm not acknowledging it. So thank you so much for that. And Sharang has also shared a little bit more. He said, you know, logging my achievements, even smaller ones, in my journal more frequently. I love to address letters to my future self for the days I'm not feeling so good and when I'm having a great day. I think that's amazing. I think that's really, you know, like kind of tapping into your best self in a way, right? Thank you for sharing that. And I'll also try to do that, Sharang. I will definitely, you know, have address letters to my future self for the days I'm not feeling good. This is very interesting. Yeah. That it's gonna be okay, right? I think eventually everything turns out okay, you know. Yeah, so that's helpful. Thank you so much for sharing all this. I think we've come to the end of time. Sakshi, if you had any last things to share, please let us know. And with that, I will, you know, close out right after.
I just wanted to thank you, Divya, for what you're doing. It's so important. And it's not a small thing. If we can intercept people as early as possible, world can be a better place. For each person is so important, and each life is important. And if we can treasure that and discuss more and normalize things, it makes it so easy, right? So thank you, each one of you, for coming and being a part of this webinar. And thank you again, Divya, for initiating this. Super helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, Sakshi. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And I think everyone watching on YouTube as well later, thank you. And in your comments, please do say how you're celebrating yourself and also what would be your biggest takeaway. We look forward to hearing you all. And if ever you need to reach out, our email address is sahaaya@bitsaa.org. So reach out anytime. Ruchi is finally replying on chat. Ruchi, I have to catch you later because I think we want to end now. We are a little past time already. So thank you so much again, Sakshi. And we look forward to stay connected with you as you know, we learn more about your journey. Congrats on the move back to India, and hope that we can invite you back on more sessions with this initiative as well. Thank you, and have a good evening or have a good rest of your day wherever you are. Bye.
Thank you.